there. I'm presenting this next one in English because it's tricky and collegiate. Woo! College! I'm sure you guys are so ready for it, especially with everything that's going on. Um, but I think it's about time we start pushing ourselves to get into that college mindset here. So, yesterday we talked about identity and how you identify as you. Okay. And I don't know, I have a difficult time with labels. And it's probably because of my extensive liberal education. Okay. In English, literature, history, and then language. But so I'm biased. But what I want you to do for today is going to require you to really be thoughtful, and um, you're probably going to feel better about doing this in English, and I'm okay with it in English as long as I'm receiving quality work. Okay, do what you can in French, but you're not going to have the vocabulary to necessarily do it all in French, and I don't want you looking up a bunch of stuff in a dictionary. Like, I don't know what this word is. I don't know what this word is. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the first thing that I've given you to look at is these key terms in post-colonial theory. Okay, now I know that in U.S. history you get to World War One. All right, and World War One is caused by imperialism and colonialism. All right, and it essentially creates these stressors among the powerhouses of the world at the time. And then somebody had to kill some dude named Ferdinand, and oh man, you killed my guy, I'm going to kill your guys. All right. So it's basically like Biggie and Tupac, just on a global scale, if you want to really think about it that way, which I do because I love Tupac. So, anyway, I digress. Okay. But there is this brief little kind of explanation of what post colonial theory is. And then they provide you with some sweet definitions relating to it. They give you like some Orientalism stuff on it. You don't need to necessarily worry about that because that's a separate part. It's kind of a piece of the puzzle that fits into post-colonialism. But you're going to want to, I don't know if you're in world literature now, but when you get to stuff from the Middle East and Asia, this is a really good lens, or even Africa, well, basically anywhere that's not Western Europe, parts of Russia, and the United States. It's helpful to look at it through this lens. You're looking at places that have been taken over by a white power. Okay, there is that poem by Rudyard Kipling called The White Man's Burden. It was in the senior lit books when I was a student here, and we were told it was a satire. And then I took Victorian literature at the graduate level, and an expert in Victorian literature said, no, he was dead serious. He really felt like it was white people's job to go into places and fix things. But who said they needed fixing? Rudyard Kipling did. So it's a matter of perspective. Okay, so colonialism, you're dealing with people who are basically being taken over and having this whiteness forced upon them. Okay, so that's post-colonialism in a nutshell, but you need to read through all of that to get a good idea of what it is. And then I found this scandalous essay on Orientalism, because, oh my gosh, the art. There are naked people on Khan Academy for you. And it deals mostly with art. if you're paying attention, you have to be very focused in on details that are going to suggest things from the Orient, which is the Middle East, North Africa, and West Asia. But it has also come to include Eastern Asia, like China and Vietnam. Okay, so Indochina, which is what we're going to be watching a film about that I'm going to totally upload this weekend. All right, so go through this and it explains exactly what Orientalism is. We can talk about the Orient as a place, but there's a bad habit that some white people still like to use by calling people Oriental. That's not okay, so don't do that. This is actually a painting that's the cover of Edward Said's book Orientalism, which is all about this theory, which is much like post-colonial theory. There's Orientalism as a theory by which you apply to literature and historical thought. But this is what he chose for his cover because it's kind of like the epitome of Orientalist thought, because they're like overplaying every single stereotype they could think of. Okay, look at all the calligraphy and artwork on the wall. There are no images of people, because it is a Muslim building. And then you've got your little snake charmer here. He's in the nude because, oh gosh, it's the Orient. Everything is so scandalous and exotic. Okay, so it's kind of like this fascination with the East that people developed, and it's kind of weird and freaky, but it was a real thing, and people just they had to have things that came from there just to say that they had things from that area of the world. Okay, so you are going to have to look at both of those, and then I've given you two images that I want you to work on with those two issues. Okay, the first one I called Colonial Vietnam because I wanted you to look at it from a post-colonial perspective. And wow, is that small. So you're going to download it and then bring it forward. And what you're going to find there are some Vietnamese men, Vietnamien, les hommes Vietnamiens, and they're wearing not so traditional clothes for gentlemen who are from Vietnam. Okay, so I want you to look at that image and analyze that image from a post-colonial perspective. Is it going to be tricky? Are you going to know what to say? No, not necessarily, but take a stab at it. Okay, put yourself in their shoes and look at it. Like, the guy behind the camera is probably white, and he probably posed them in that particular position for a reason. They're dressed that way for a certain reason. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, after looking at that post-colonial information, you should be able to articulate that, I'm hoping. Okay, and then, oh my gosh, this was my favorite one. Super relevant because I'm missing prom. So this is not fully traditional, but I picked it because it was super dramatic. It's kind of like East meets a little bit of West, just a little bit. Okay, but it's pretty close to the elements of traditional Vietnamese wedding attire that you're going to see. The woman's dress is way too floaty and flowy. Her headdress is a little too big. The guy's pretty on point. If you want to do some more research on it, you're going to find some gorgeous things as you look around. But there's something about her posed on the stairs with this just perfectly draped, just so, that really spoke to me and said, we have to look at this one for Orientalism. And so I want you to look at this picture and explain to me how it relates to Orientalism. And the big idea in Orientalism is that someone has been othered, okay, with a capital O, all right? They're not exactly a part of the cool kids table, which would be a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, okay? So how are they being othered in this photo? What are they doing to try to compensate for that? So on and so forth. Okay, so I want you to analyze these two pictures. You can type it up and attach it here. That's perfectly fine. Um, and like I said, try some stuff in French. Try a couple of your simpler sentences in French, but for the most part, you're probably going to need to use your English. But I think it's a valuable enough conversation that the English is going to be okay, because we have to talk about it before we can watch the movie. Otherwise, the end of the movie is not going to be as fulfilling as it should be for you. Okay? All right. Hop to it. And if you have any questions, please email me. Okay?